The surplus of manpower, inventiveness, and food started the Industrial Revolution in England and sparked its spread to the rest of the world. During the Industrial Revolution, many new patents were made in Britain. Some of the thousands of inventions that were patented during this era were very influential throughout the Industrial Revolution for the increase in productivity that they led to. Some of these inventions include the power loom, the steam engine, and the electric motor. Firstly, the power loom was invented in 1784 by Englishman Edmund Cartwright. The power loom is a mechanized loom that is able to weave cloth much faster than people could by hand. Edmund Cartwright's design was powered by a line shaft to distribute force throughout the machines from a power source. This power could be gained in a variety of ways, including animals, windmills, and water wheels. By using a variety of techniques, the factories were able to be built in a variety of places, not only on rivers. This increased the efficiency of the factories because people no longer had to move to get to factories. The factories could be created around the people. One of the first steam engines was developed by Thomas Savery. It was a water pump, which had little practicality beyond mining and pumping stations. Some of the first actual steam engines were created by Thomas Newcomen and James Watt, which used the vacuum created by the compression of steam instead of the expansion of steam. The steam engine was eventually implemented in trains. Electric motors were first developed by Michael Faraday in 1821. He used a free-hanging wire that dipped into a pool of mercury, which rotated around a magnet, showing that electricity moves in a circular motion. He also once stated that the 5 essential entrepreneurial skills for success are concentration, discrimination, organization, innovation, and communication. The agricultural revolution is a result of many things and continued to grow because of other factors. A major part of the agricultural revolution is the use of turnips and clovers. The widespread use of turnips and clovers and the increased use of legumes was a major factor in the increased production, because turnips, clovers, and legumes added nitrogen to the soil, refilling it with the nutrients that other crops depleted it of. This increased the efficiency of the 3-field and 4-field crop systems. The discovery of the usefulness of turnips, clovers, and legumes, as well as the emergence of selectively bred cattle, was a direct result of enclosed farms being created. Enclosed farms were farms owned by the noble landowners, a piece of land that had been previously public property within the state for all the farmers. A law was passed in the British government allowing nobles to enclose the land with a fence and claim it as theirs. The nobles, not depending on the land for their livelihoods, began experimenting with all sorts of methods that might be more effective without having to worry about whether or not they failed. The nobles' possession of these farmlands also encouraged the spread of industrialization, as they not only had the money to invest in the new and expensive machines, but they weren't betting their lives on the success of the unproven machine. Increased farmland was another cause. As industrialization and the need for greater efficiency on larger and larger scales arose, more and more marshes were drained and more forests, which also had valuable lumber, were cleared as well. This increased the farmland they could use. The creation of the first artificial fertilizer in 1842 by John Bennett Laws redefined the industry. Until that point, the only ways to increase production was to increase the land being used, change the rotation system, or change the crops being used. John Bennett Laws opened up a whole new avenue of discovery when he created the first artificial fertilizer. One of the results of the agricultural revolution was that more food was produced per farmer. This caused less and less farmers to be needed, and the displaced farmers moved to cities, becoming an integral part of the growing industrial revolution occurring in cities. Concord explains this in his book The Progress of the Human Mind, when he states, "Thus not only will the same amount of land be able to feed more people, but each of them, with less labor, will be employed more productively and will be able to satisfy his needs better." Andrew Michael's threshing machine was a machine that raised productivity by removing husks of corn faster. However, the spread of these machines panicked many workers and was the last straw for many farm laborers. It caused the swing riots, a series of tumultuous uprisings where the farm laborers destroyed many of the machines, beginning with the threshing machine in East Kent that was utterly ruined. They demanded higher wages and an end to the use of threshing machines. Many workers began transitioning from the farm to the factory in search of a new and hopefully more secure job, only to be confronted with the same problem later on. Britain's international trade was so potent and profitable that it was one of the main reasons the Industrial Revolution appeared there first. It created a high-wage, cheap energy economy which provided a fantastic environment for the Industrial Revolution to flourish. Britain was the first nation to experience the revolution and was most industrialized for quite a while. However, other nations eventually caught up and surpassed Britain in sheer production of steel and other products. But Britain invested so much of its wealth into trade, 25%, a quarter of its wealth, that it continued to dominate trade in its related arenas very clearly. Britain's political connections throughout the world, being the empire on which the sun never sets, and its massive investments on building radio cables to keep in close contact with the world, going so far as to build cables to India and the US. During the Industrial Revolution, world trade was greatly influenced by the introduction of steamships. Steamships could ship heavier cargo than sailing ships, and were most used in countries with large coal deposits. Due to the larger market, companies began to mass-produce common goods with the introduction of the modern factory. However, as companies began to create these items, countries with opposing businesses set up tariffs, which was an attempt at limiting foreign business. These tariffs were not very successful, as Britain had enough manufacturers to bypass the tariffs set up by competing nations. Not only were manufacturing countries involved in the world market, but producing areas as well. It's just like Benjamin Franklin said, no nation was ever ruined by trade.